Hi, I'm Kesenya and welcome to Astrolata. I'm your Astro Weather Girl with this week's Astro Weather Report. Well, as you can see, I'm sitting here today between two of my astro wheels, and yes, I'm sorry, here I go again about my astrology wheels, but this is to say a monstrous big thank you to everybody who told me how much they loved the astro wheels and how they wanted to order one, and would I please consider a second production run. So because of you guys, because there's been so much interest and positivity, I am now able to do a second production run knowing that it's going to be worth my while. So thank you to everybody. Big heartfelt thanks. This has been one of my little babies, my creative pride and joy, so to speak. So it is such a delight to be able to offer them again for you. And because it is quite an expensive item, it is a boutique item, it's handmade, and because of this, it isn't cheap. But I do want to offer two versions now that we're doing this second production run, so that you might be able to afford one. The first one, which is the cream of the crop, shall we say, is this beautiful little magnetic one here, which many of you have and are using online, and yay, it's wonderful, with the magnetic planets. And of course, because it's magnetic, it is actually writable, so you can draw this gorgeous big love heart here, or another, add a few fixed stars in wherever you want them, and with a whiteboard marker. And of course, because of that, it's actually able to be rubbed off as well, so you can, teach us all your special astrological knowledge with a few little handy texter marks. Yay, lots of fun. But this fellow here is cheaper. This one is actually fuzzy felt, so you can see they look the same. Very similar, but this little guy, he has fuzzy felt planets. Now if you've got kids and you know how that goes with the fuzzy felt boards and storyboards and things, good fun. So that is how that one works. You just stick your fuzzy felt planets wherever you want them to be. And of course this fellow is a little bit cheaper because it doesn't cost as much to produce the fuzzy felt as it does a metal wheel. Now they're both on wooden boards and they spin, just for people who've not caught my videos before and don't know how they work. So they do spin. I'll show you if you like. As you can see, I use a little cake plate to hold them up, but it spins so that you can stick a marker anywhere you like, and say, oh, this is your rising sign, and now it's 10th house or whatever, 9th house, so you can play with it that way. But don't take my word for it, as they say. I'm not going to offer a free set of steak knives with it, but don't take my word for how good they are. Let me share a recent review that I've had for the Astro Wheels. I've had lots of reviews, but it might help if you hear one directly. So this is from Kylie, who very kindly wrote to me and said, thank you so much for the astrology wheel. It's really actually helping me to learn because it's so interactive with aspects of planets and the signs they fall in. It's really great. Great for me, given I'm still quite a novice with all of this. And for those of us who are from Australia, you'll understand this reference. She says, I felt like Benita from Play School when I was cutting out my felt planets. She's purchased one of these guys. And of course, my 7-year-old has started using it as well. It's a wonderful idea and gives us such a gorgeous illustration of what's happening in our sky. So thank you to Kylie for getting in touch and letting me know that. I really appreciate the feedback. Believe me, Leo-san thrives on feedback, so good feedback. So that was really lovely. Thank you, Kylie, and thank you to all the lovely people who've been in touch and said how much they appreciate the Astro Wheel. So, moving right along, let's get stuck into this week's weather. So what is happening in this week's astro weather? Well, on the 24th of August, we're going to have Mars and Venus. Here they are over here, Mars and Venus. They're going to be together in the sky. They're going to meet as one. Boom, there they are there. Let me put him on properly. Mars and Venus together in the sky, but as you can see, they're very close to the sun, only a couple of degrees apart. So they're actually combust, both of them, at the moment. They're not actually in conversation with the sun as Venus was last week. This is because when Venus is what they call cazimi, exactly at the same degree as the sun or any planet, at the same degree as the sun, it's considered that they're in conversation. But at this point, by 24th of August, then they're both a couple of degrees away from the degree of the sun, and therefore they are considered to be combust instead. Now, this is an annual transit. The sun, once a year, will go into conjunction with Mars, and once a year will go into conjunction with Venus. Basically, all the planets have at some point a conjunction with the sun fairly regularly. So it's not an unusual transit. But normally when we have Mars, if the sun wasn't involved, when we have Mars and Venus making a conjunction in the chart, again, that's an annual occurrence, then we can, if the sun wasn't involved, so pretend the sun wasn't here, normally it would increase our desire for intimate relationships in our life. So this can be maybe a longing for more sexual intimacy. Mars is a very sexual planet, and Venus is very sensual, all about physical touch and sensuality and all the tactile elements of relationship, as well as the connection, that soul to soul kind of connection with another. So we can normally, when these two make get together and have a bit of a tango in the sky, we can get an increased chance for romance occurring in our life. Now, that can be whether we're married or single. It doesn't really matter. Anyone can have romance occur in their life. Even as a single person, we can create our own romance, but we get a desire for it more. So that could simply be, you might pick yourself a bunch of flowers, or you're at the local supermarket and there's a bunch of jonquils or something looking spectacular and smelling divine, and so you think, I'm going to treat myself, I'm going to give myself a little bit of romantic love here and buy myself a bunch of flowers. But your desire for it will increase when Mars and Venus get together in the sky. And of course, this can happen in a marriage relationship too, or some sort of committed partnership where one of you will do something that's very much loving and caring and romantic for the other person, and it can also be reciprocated. This is normally when the two planets are not usurped by the sun, and I'll talk about that in a minute. You would normally feel, when this conjunction occurs, more appealing, more attractive, more sexy, more beautiful. So, this is a nice energy that can ordinarily occur when we feel like we've got something going on, Sorry about my ridiculous accent. You can feel more appealing, and that's a really nice thing to feel. Our self-worth is amped up by the energy and passion and drive of Mars. Venus is self-worth, Mars is passion. So we can actually have more self-assertion in realms of our own self-esteem. We can feel more amped up, I guess is the word. It's great. It's also great for new friendships, and it's great for connection with both men and women. So this is a time when you can make new friends of all sexes ordinarily. It's a great time for energetic self-expression and creativity, like dancing. That's energetic self-expression, so going out to a club and dancing is a great thing to do when these two are conjunct in the sky. This is happening on the 24th of August. Going out dancing, but other forms of self-expression that require a lot of physical involvement. If you're someone who works as a painter or an artist that involves your whole body in the art that you do, splashes the paint around with very energetic sort of strokes and what have you, these are the sorts of things that can be really enhanced right now. So anything that involves physicality in our creative self-expression, dancing, works of art and sculpture, the people who are down the street painted in silver and gold and standing there like statues and watching you all the time. Those sorts of things, you might go out and try that for for something fun. These physical expressions of our creativity, they're great. And that's where sexuality can come into it too. It is the realm of sex is actually physical expression of our, sexual creativity. Lots of fun. It's also normally, this conjunction can bring about a drive and a vigor within us to improve the aesthetics that we have in our life. So this could be in our home, in our wardrobe, maybe in our jewelry that we own, or, anywhere, like home renos, sexier wardrobe, like I said, getting some new makeup or beauty products or getting a new haircut. We're just invigorated towards that end. We get a desire, Mars's desire, to make the aesthetics of our life more appealing, more lovely. So this can be really fun, this energy. But when these two are combust with the sun, which is what is going on this week, then these great attributes, and they are great attributes, they become hidden. They become usurped. They get sacrificed to the brilliance of the sun. And I talked about this in my video called Vanishing Venus a couple of weeks back, when Venus first became combust with the sun. So how this then manifests for us this week is that internally we're going to want these things. We might have a desire to experience some rumpy-pumpy. We might have, the desire to go and do some sort of really creative dance and what have you, or go and stand down the street and painted like a silver statue, or those sorts of things. We might really have a desire to experience those things right now, but it's going to be internalized, and somehow we're not going to be able to start them up just yet. So it's going to be very much an internal process, an internal feeling, and a thought process for us. I'll give you an example. Like I said a moment ago, there's a drive and a vigor towards improving the aesthetics of your life. I've been in discussions since Venus has been combust with builders and tilers and what have you around some renos that desperately need doing in my house. So I have been talking with them and getting quotes, and I'm like, yep, let's go with that quote, let's go with that. But I'm still in the waiting period. Like, when is this going to start? So I've been internalizing this is what I want it to look like. Been having conversations about it, but no action has taken place yet. Mars is combust. No action has taken place. Lots of discussion, no action. And this is how this will manifest at the moment. There's a feeling of, we want this is what we desire now, but there's nothing happening. In fact, the builders and so forth that I've given the go-ahead to are not going to be available to start the job for me until these guys are no longer combust. It's like, the universe, you can't beat its timing. So there's a lot going on here that is internalized within us, but not being able to be expressed. In fact, the emphasis right now is much more, and I spoke about this in the Vanishing Venus video, the emphasis is about our sun placement and the house where Leo sits in whole sign astrology. So just say you're Virgo rising, well, Leo's your 12th house, that's what the sun rules. These are where we need to focus our attention until this period ends, because as I said in that previous video, these guys are being sacrificed to the sun. What they represent, what I've just described to you, would normally be the feelings that we would associate with this conjunction. They're being sacrificed to the needs of the sun or the desires of the sun. And in this, let's say this is a chart here and this is the first house. Leo is the 12th house. So 12th house things are what needs to be focused on right now, until such time as Venus and Mars become visible again. So where does your sun sit in your chart, and what house is it in? And therefore, where are you being called to focus your energy while these two are being sacrificed? Where does your Leo sign sit? What sign is it in your chart in whole sign astrology? And therefore, that's a realm that is being has a need to be focused on while Venus and Mars are being sacrificed to the sun. For me, the sun sits in my 6th house. My 6th house is actually Leo. So right now, instead of getting the renos done, what I need to focus on is earning the money, doing my work, and generating the income that's going to pay for these renos and pay for these guys. So, I'm doing extra work. I have a very, very casual job that's going to help support my payment to the builders to get this work done. So that's sixth house energy. Sun in sixth house, Leo in sixth house. What about you? Where's your sun? Where's your Leo? And what are you needing to focus on while Venus and Mars are being sacrificed? So that's on the 24th. So the other energy that I wanted to look at is what is happening on the 27th of August. Now, all three, as you can see, Sun, Mars, and Venus, they're all conjunct. And this is going to take place when they get conjunct on the 27th, or very close to one another, not to the degree conjunct, but very close, in Virgo. And because they're in Virgo, in the early degrees of Virgo, they are actually going to make, I'll get this right, a trine to Uranus. Now, I'm actually not going to talk about that this week. It is an important connection that's being made, but I'm not going to talk about it this week because it's going to really come home to roost for us next week when we have the new moon in Virgo. So that's when I'll talk about that. But the first sort of connection is occurring around the 27th of August. Now, also on the 27th of August, and this is the energy I want to focus on this week, in this week's video more than anything, is the fact that the moon is conjunct with the North Node round here, making, well, it's not actually by degree making a sextile, but it sits in the middle of these two energies. Now, this is something that happens once a month. The moon goes around the whole horoscope once a month. So it crosses over the North Node once a month. Therefore, it's fairly regular. It's not unusual. We know what this feels like. However, it really is important this year, all year long, because whenever it is conjuncting with the North Node, it is also making an opposition to these guys. Oh, that's a nice wobbly line, isn't it? Saturn and Pluto, who are with the South Node for the majority of this year. So every time the moon goes across this point this year, it's also making opposition, getting a real triggering by these guys. So this North Node is being really, really amped up in the collective and in the personal lives of us all this year, all across the planet, because there is just so much activity focused on these 2 points this year from planetary triggers. So because of that, it is actually really worth talking about the effect of the North Node making conjunction with the transiting moon at some point this year. So this is the week for talking about it. Thanks for joining me. So the moon is personal consciousness. That's what the moon represents, amongst many, many other things. But one of the things that it represents, especially when we're talking about North and South nodes, the moon is our personal consciousness. Now, the North Node and the South Node are a combo of personal consciousness and collective consciousness. What the North Node and the South Node are the points in the sky where the sun's ecliptic crosses the moon's ecliptic and they meet. And the moon, as I just said, is our personal consciousness and the sun is the collective consciousness. So wherever they meet, it's about the conjunction of the collective consciousness and the personal consciousness. This is what we are rising up into with the North Node. So on this, the South Node is the collective and personal consciousness from the past, what's been experienced, what we know about, what's familiar down here. And it's currently in Capricorn. So we're dealing with, on the collective level, the collective consciousness regarding hierarchies and authority figures. You're seeing it all the time this year. Hierarchies, old political and sort of authoritative systems that are really getting a go-over, which needs to happen. But I'm not going to go into that or I'll get on my bandwagon and you don't want that. So South Node in Capricorn is dealing with old collective consciousness as well as personal consciousness. I will talk more about that actually next week in next week's video. But the North Node up here is about the destiny of collective consciousness that we're rising up into, as well as our own personal consciousness as well. So this is the point in our charts that talks about collective consciousness, but also our personal consciousness. And you know what? If we are honoring our own personal destiny, and honoring our own rising up essentially into personal consciousness, then we can't help but affect, if we're working at a high level, manifesting at a high level, we can't help but affect the collective consciousness as well. And you'll often hear many sages say that we are all connected. I used to wonder what that meant, actually. I would be like, what do you mean we're all connected? I feel very separate. I feel very alone, and I know a lot of people do. How are we all connected? It actually dawned on me this week that we are all connected, and yet we're all separate as well. And again, I've used this analogy before. It is like the railway line running to Timbuktu or wherever. But on one side, you've got one railway line that represents one thing, collective consciousness, and the other side is personal consciousness. And you need both to get anywhere. So it's a bit like that railway line analogy. The train can't run unless there's both. And the thing is, we are all individuals. Yes, we are walking embodiment of a moment in time, but we are all connected too. I was chatting with a friend about the chart of Adolf Hitler recently, and I said, where in his chart can you see that he was a monster? Because when you look at this chart, yeah, there's some pretty yucky stuff, but no worse than half the charts I see every day. What is it in this chart that defines this man as the monster that he was? And my friend said, well, you know what? He wasn't operating in isolation. He was interacting with Goring and Himmler and all those other tosses. He was in interaction with other people's charts, other people's moment in time. It was an interactive experience that he was, that affected his chart and then manifested in him becoming this person. And they too were affected by him. So it was a beautiful reminder that we do actually all affect one another. Yes, we are an individual embodiment of a moment in time, but we're also interacting and experiencing dynamics with all the other people we meet. We're not a pure moment in time, and that's it. That's the end of the story. We're interacting. And if you take it out, now I'm on my bandwagon, sorry guys, but if you take it out bigger and larger than that, to the way the whole universe works, a star is an individual entity. It is a body functioning unto itself. It might have some planets going around it or whatever, but it is an individual, isolated entity, a star. But it is part of the galaxy, the whole greater context, and it's part of the community of stars in the Milky Way galaxy, like our sun is, or Sirius A and B are. It's part of a collective. And all these stars, they're actually affecting one another and interacting with one another. Some are in binary systems. The sun is an isolated entity, but gosh, it affects every planet in the solar system, as does every planet in the solar system have an effect on us here on Earth, or possibly affecting the sun in some way as well. There's cause and effect going on all the time. So when I realized it this week, I was like, aha, now I get it. Yes, we are separate. And yes, there are times when we feel alone. But by the same token, we are not isolated. We are not alone. We are interacting all the time and being affected by, and we in turn are affecting others. And there is this collective, we are all one. We're all made of the same stuff, have the same breath, have the same atoms and molecules running through our body and all that kind of thing. But in a very tangible everyday experience sense, we are not isolated. We are not alone, because our charts and ourselves are interacting with others all the time. So thanks for letting me go off on my tangent and for for not switching off. But it does come back to what we're talking about here with collective consciousness and personal consciousness. With the North Node, we are rising up into our own personal destiny. And we are also, by rising up into our personal destiny and trying to do that at a highly manifested manner, if we're a very conscious person, we are also helping the collective to rise to a greater standard as well. So when you are pursuing your own personal consciousness and expanding your own consciousness, you're also blessing the universal consciousness too. Beautiful thought. So this day when the moon, which is, remember, the personal consciousness, is making connection with our destiny point, the North Node, it represents a minor, and like I said, it happens once a month, so it's something we're familiar with. It's not kind of, starbursts and fireworks kind of activity. It's a minor merging of our personal consciousness with the collective consciousness that we're rising up into in our personal destinies and the collective destiny. So in a practical sense, it's a day where something, usually something little, something incremental, something quite minor, maybe even unnoticeable, some little thing can happen that can contribute towards your overall ultimate future growth into the destiny that's represented by your natal North Node. For example, you might, go for a wander through like a display home. You're just driving along and, there's a display village. Hey, let's stop. I've got time on my lunch break. I might have a wander through the display home, and you might receive some sudden inspiration for the aesthetics in your home that you are currently undertaking a renovation for. Or you might receive, the inspiration to, I'd love a new home. Maybe I'll look at putting my house on the market. So it can be some little incremental piece of activity that changes the course of your life towards whatever your destiny happens to be. You might have a coffee with a friend down the street. Be having a chat, talking away, sipping away at your brewed chai or whatever it is that you've got. And they might just say some, random little sentence, means nothing, just a passing comment, and it just goes boom with you, and you get the seed of an idea pop into your mind because of that little comment or that little piece of insight or information that really takes you now further towards your destiny. Or it might play out that you go to parent-teacher interviews, something very common, very ordinary, something none of us like to do. Go to parent-teacher interviews, and in doing so you might meet somebody who totally alters your life. You might, be introduced to the mother of a friend of your son's, and it's like, oh my God, I feel like I've known you all my life. It could be something like that, or a teacher that teaches your son, and who knows, but there will be some occurrence that happens on this day that is going to serve to take you incrementally further into your overall destiny. It's a day when these little things can actually, in the long term, turn out to have a big impact on your overall life down the track. And of course, this does happen once a month, and probably in a million little ways that we never actually consciously recognize. The moon triggering the North Node does this monthly when there is activation there. We probably don't see it half the time, but this is part of the energy and the momentum represented by this connection in the sky. Now, just know that this will also be happening at a very collective level, like I just described when I went off on my tangent. It's happening at a collective level, so make sure, if you're into this sort of thing, I don't watch the news because I find it's too much for me. I get too angry. But if you're into watching the news, keep an eye on the news. Keep an eye on the news every month when the moon makes a conjunction with the North Node, and just note maybe you might like to even write it down. Note in your head or on a piece of paper what happens, and see whether it causes a ripple effect that it increases at some point down the track. Some president makes some stupid statement, and a ripple effect happens 6 months down the track. But this is what we're talking about here. What comes up on this day will have a tendency to play out in the collective in the long term. Now, Facebook memories are really, really interesting, and they speak to us of this cyclical nature that happens. All of astrology, all of life is very, very cyclical. And if you've ever noticed Facebook memories, I notice this all the time. I'll get I'll be feeling a certain way. Like I'll be about to have some rant on Facebook, and I'll go to my Facebook page and, I'm going to rant about parent-teacher interviews, and oh my God. And then my Facebook memories will come up and it'll be like, oh my God, parent-teacher interviews, gosh, they suck, and la 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 la. And it's like, wow, I was in that same frame of mind last year. Maybe that's because parent-teacher interviews are at the same time every year. But more often than not, it happens that I am just in a state of mind, a feeling, and, a certain emotional way of being. And I notice, my God, 6 years ago, I was in this same condition, this same space, feeling this way about X, Y, Z. And it's constantly amazing to me how these triggers happen in a cyclical way. And a lot of that you'll note when you start to take notice, when you start to write down the events, paying attention to what's playing out astrologically, and you look back and you go, yeah, that was that cycle. Oh yeah, that was this. So it's really, really interesting to observe what North Node Moon conjunctions that happen monthly bring about, that then affects us personally in the long term and collectively in the long term. Now, what I want to talk about on an individual level, and I'll get to that shortly, is that the North Node, even though this is the transiting North Node that we're looking at here, it's actually triggering for us our natal North Node position, because our natal North Node position is what we're rising up into. It's our destiny on a personal level, and it represents certain things in our life. And so when the transiting North Node gets triggered by, say, the moon, particularly the moon's a very manifesting planet, and this is going to happen on the 27th of August for us this month. When that happens, then we actually get more of, shall I say, a small injection of manifestation occurring in our life towards our personal destiny that's represented by the natal position of our North Node. So in a minute, I'm going to cut to a section that I actually recorded earlier about natal North Node placements and what they represent. And so therefore, when this conjunction occurs, what kind of things might manifest in your life that might be leading you towards your overall personal destiny. So you're going to need to know where your natal North Node position is. This guy, he's not going to be all that helpful for this next piece, but we're going to look, that's what we're going to look at this week. Bit different to usual, a bit maybe left of center perhaps, but we're going to look at what the North Node house placement represents, and therefore on the 27th of August, when the moon is triggering the North Node, what it's going to play out for, how it's going to play out for you in your own personal chart. So check out your North Node if you don't know it already. So with the wonders of modern editing software, I'm back with my astro wheels now as we go through each of the signs. Now, because I'm using whole sign astrology for this week's report, individual report, and because we are actually not utilizing in what I'm going to be explaining here, and we're not utilizing the current astrological placements of the planets, I felt that it would be probably more confusing than not to have my big astro wheel functioning here as we go through all the signs. If you've tuned into the introduction, you'll know what we're looking at here, and that it actually is not correlating to where the current planetary placements are. So what we're looking at is the placement of the North Node in your personal chart, and therefore what this week's planets will be triggering for you. So you need to know your chart, essentially. You need to know where the North Node falls in your chart. And if you don't know this, then I'd encourage you to pop over to astro.com, www.astro.com, type in your details, create an account if you want to. It's a really fabulous resource, astro.com. Pop over there, type in your details, get your chart to come up on the screen, and you will see the North Node in wherever it happens to fall for you. And we're using whole sign astrology, where every sign is actually a house. If you don't know what whole sign astrology is, leave a comment in the comment section and I'll direct you to a link that explains what that is. What we're exploring here for each sign is what realm of life might be receiving on this day listen to the introduction to know which day it is, a small injection of manifestation for your destiny, for your future. Whereabouts is that happening for you in your chart? So this, if you have the North Node in the first house, will be impacting on this day the independence and self-will that you carry, your ability to be an independent person, because if your North Node is in the first house, this is what you're rising up into. Developing more self-assertion, developing more self-will, being able to thrive and survive under your own terms, under your own capacity. It's also to do with your physical appearance. You're going to be more focused now on caring for your physical appearance, caring for the presentation of yourself to the world, how you look, essentially, and how you also care for your body. These are the areas. So this might manifest on this day to be something like suddenly, you get a flyer in the mail to join the local gym. And it just triggers you and you think, yeah, you know what? I'm feeling really frumpy lately. I need to go join the gym. So you do this one little act that, you go and join the gym that actually changes the whole course of your destiny. North Node is destiny, where you suddenly move towards more care for the body, more honoring of your physical appearance, more investment in the person that you are at an external physical level, but also in being able to assert yourself and have some sort of independence and self-will in some realm. It doesn't have to necessarily be the body. That's one example. The first house correlates to the body. So there's going to be an event on this day. It might be quite minor. You might not even realize the significance of it, but it is going to push you forward into your destiny regarding self-will, independence, and the body. So, like I said, it might be a flyer in the mail where you're inspired to go join the gym. It could be that, you receive some kind of information, or it could be that you get inspired to assert yourself in a situation that you've previously felt powerless in, and so you assert yourself, or you make your desires and your self-will known in some way. Maybe it might be with a partner, or with your children, or with a boss, or could be in any realm of life at all. You decide to take steps forward to assert your own independence and self-assertion, and this actually sets you up for a greater destiny, a greater future into the long term. So little things that happen to us on this day can affect us for our overall destiny in the very, very long-term scheme of our soul's existence in this incarnation. So that's where it's falling, that's the realm if your North Node happens to fall for you in the first house. Well, if your North Node happens to fall in the second house, then what is going to be happening for you on this particular day? You're going to get a triggering and receive some small injection of manifestation in your life that's going to be pushing you towards an ultimate destiny that has to do with money, material possessions, any type of finance, physical resources to support your body and its journey through life, values and self-worth. So essentially, maybe it might be something like, you decide you're going to clean out your wardrobe and give a ton of clothes you don't need anymore to charity. Maybe they don't fit you, or they're not trendy anymore, and you're like, no, I'm gonna make space in my wardrobe. And it'll be something minor, something that you don't even feel is significant, like that, where you clean out your wardrobe. But what it does is creates space for the new material, whatever blessings to enter into your life. So cleaning out your wardrobe might be helping you to develop a more classic wardrobe that lasts and that doesn't date so quickly, and that has more high quality clothing that's not so bad for the environment, as lots of cheap cotton crap. You now have space and you decide, I'm going to only have clothing that is more environmentally friendly and more classic and long lasting. So it could be something like that. You might decide that you might make a decision about the food that you eat on this day. I'm no longer going to eat takeaway, whatever. Now I'm going to focus on healthy salads and whatever. The second house isn't so much about diet. It is about the food that we eat, though. So you may make decisions that is about the food rather than your physical health. It's about the food that you choose to eat, not being so cheap and nasty now, and much more better for you and well produced and less chemicals and pesticides gone into the production of whatever it happens to be. So there will be some small decision that you make or some small occurrence in your life that is going to impact you for the long term with regard to finances. So it might even be that you get an opportunity to invest in something. You might get a chance to do a project at work that is actually in the long term going to remunerate you quite extensively in a way that you never would have imagined before. So on this day, when the North Node and the Moon connect, and it, like I said in the intro, it happens once a month. This is a day when you can actually do little things, and little things will manifest for you that are about the big picture destiny in the long term for you. So watch out, take note. What little things happen that are going to actually support you and be there for you into your future regarding material possessions if you have the North Node in the second house. Now also the second house relates to our self-worth and our self-value, how we treat ourselves, how we honor ourselves. So there may be, it might not be working out in the fields of material realm for you on this day. It might instead be manifesting for you in the self-value, self-worth realm. It could simply be that you decide to go down the street and get your fingernails done. I know mine are recovering from the last few months that I've had shellac on them, and they're quite messed up. But you might decide, I'm going to go get my fingernails done, and it's just that little bit of self-indulgence, if you like, or self-care or self-honoring that might set you up for something really incredible in the future. I mean, who knows? Like having those fingernails, someone might approach you to come and be a hand model in some kind of advertising. I mean, that's a crazy, kooky example, but you just never know in what little way. You might meet somebody at the nail salon who totally transforms your life and takes you on a whole different trajectory with your destiny. So it's the little things that happen on this day to do with self-worth, material possessions and so forth. If you've got the North Node in the second house, that can be a huge blessing to you in the long term, and you may just not know what little things happen that can really set you up for a greater destiny. Now, if you happen to have the North Node in the third house, then the realm of life that's going to be receiving this small injection of manifestation for your destiny is going to fall in realms of communication, speech, how you speak, how you talk, writing, learning processes that you do, any skills you have, any short journeys you take, small business undertakings, and siblings and relatives. These are all the things ruled by the third house. And so for you guys, there's going to be something bubble up for you in this realm of your life that's going to really support you long-term into the future. And it might be something very minor that you don't even realize is significant that occurs on this day. But it's only in retrospect, a long way down the track, you're like, oh my God, yeah, that day I wrote that article for that online publication. Wow, look at what that's done for me. Look at what that's done for my credibility. Look at what it's done for my folio. Something like that. That's taken you into a whole new realm with regard to your third house North Node destiny. And we're using whole sign astrology here too. It might be that you have a connection with a sibling on this day, that you haven't talked to your siblings in ages, and one of you reaches out and says, hey, how you going? And that connection just reaffirms and reestablishes some sort of relationship with your siblings that might have been lacking for some time, and suddenly everything's restored, and how that then goes on to affect your future destiny in relationships with siblings and relatives. It could be that you happen to, get a flyer in the mailbox that's all about the local adult learning center, and they're offering a course in night photography, and you're like, oh my God, I've always wanted to do night photography. Those beautiful pictures of the stars that people go out and take. They're really quite spectacular. And you get this flyer and you're like, wow, I want to do this course. So you enroll, you go do this course, you meet some fabulous new people, you make new connections and networks. That's very third house as well. And you end up establishing some kind of a new small business out of this one initial idea that happened on this day that, I think I might go and do a short course in night photography. So you just don't know how this is going to play out over the scheme of things. But wherever the North Node is involved, then there is some contribution, very minor though it may be, that occurs to our overall destiny and what our soul is here to experience in this lifetime. So that's third house. If you have the North Node falling in the fourth house, well, the realm of life that's going to be receiving some sort of small injection of manifestation for your destiny is going to fall in fourth house realms. Now, fourth house realms are home, heritage, your roots, your lineage, your ancestry, any type of sort of connection to the mother or the nurturing parent, family, your overall family experience, your private world, and it's also very much the fourth house connected to the earth. I mean, the fourth house is at the lowest point. It's down here, if I use that little astro wheel. It's at the lowest point in the horoscope, feet on the ground, not up in space, up in your head. It's feet on the ground. The earth is seen by the fourth house. So for you guys with the North Node in whole sign astrology in the fourth house, what may manifest for you on this day is a tremendous, well, it doesn't have to be tremendous, it can actually be very small, but it's going to result in some sort of beautiful movement and momentum into your destiny, and it's going to happen in the realm of home and heritage. So you might for example, you might go for a walk in nature. You might actually go and connect with the earth, and you just feel at one, at peace or at unison with nature. You might go pick some flowers or go sit in the bush, listen to the birds in silence and quiet, and really do some introspection and go into your private world and connect with nature and ground yourself on this day. That might actually set you up. You might get a thought of inspiration, or you might just feel so centered and so balanced because of this experience that it therefore shoots you into more of your destiny. You might get an idea, I want to have a sustainable farm one day and have self-sufficiency and provide my own food and fruit and vegetables, and you might get an inspiration for how you can take another baby step forward in achieving that, what that might look like for you, how you could make it happen, how you can collaborate with others even and head towards that destiny. You might get an idea. That can simply be an idea that manifests in your mind at this time. That then leads on to, say, 10 years down the track, you've got your own self-sufficient, sustainable property that you've always dreamed of. It could be a connection with your roots and your ancestry. So you might, get one of those emails that says, do your saliva test and find out about your ancestry through ancestry.com or whatever platform you want to use. And you think, oh yeah, I've always wanted to do that. I'm going to actually do that. So you get in there and do some family history stuff on this day, and you get a test done, and you discover, oh my gosh, I was actually I'm part Polish or whatever it happens to be that is your lineage. But you delve into your lineage and you get a greater understanding of your lineage and a connection to the past through something to do with the fourth house on this day. The fourth house is very much connected to where we've come from as a human being. That can be genetically. It can also sometimes be karmically, although we would look for other things in terms of karma. But on this day, when the North Node and the Moon make a connection, their monthly connection, then you can actually have something bubble up in your life that's of importance and significance towards your destiny, a greater understanding of your heritage, your roots, and your lineage, and embracing that. More of a connection to the earth, more of a connection to family, more of a respect for the role that your mother played, more of a desire for home. Like, it's when you've got the North Node in the fourth house, having an actual bricks and mortar home is a big part of what you want to rise up into. So something might happen. You might decide, you'll go for a walk through a few display homes or something, and you find the house of your dreams, and you're like, right, I'm going to start saving, I'm going to get that deposit together. Could be anything like that. Some little something will happen in your life to help inspire you or help manifest in the long term towards your overall destiny. Now, if your North Node happens to fall in whole sign astrology in the fifth house, well, the realm of life that's going to be receiving a small injection of manifestation on this day, towards your destiny is going to come in fifth house things, which is all about our own self-expressed creativity. I mean, I'm very fifth. I don't have North Node in the fifth house, but I do have a lot of planets in the fifth house. So expressing my creativity is just a big part of who I am. And this is going to be part of your destiny too, to express your creativity in some unique, interesting form. The fifth house is also our children. It's the way we express ourselves. Creativity aside, it's how we display who we are to the world. You know, how we might dress, or our particular sense of style, this sort of thing. It's also pleasure, it's also romance, it's also love, and it's also risk-taking. These are the things we see in the fifth house. And so when we actually have this connection of the moon and the North Node, and it correlates to our destiny point being in the fifth house, something may manifest for us in these realms to take us further into our destiny in the long term. So this might be that you get an idea. Astro wheel. Oh, what a great idea. Oh, you know what? If I did XYZ, that would be really good too. And you come up with some new idea, some creative intelligence that you can now implement and incorporate into maybe your business, or maybe your life, or some sort of artwork, or some sort of song, or whatever it is that's your creative expression. You get an idea and you take that road with your new creative piece of inspiration that you never know where it might lead to, but that one small little idea or something that manifests in your life takes you more towards your North Node destiny. When we have the North Node in the fifth house, it can also mean we crave popularity and celebrity. So you might actually, be flicking through Facebook or something and see that, oh wow, such and such an entertainer is coming to my town. I want to go and see this concert. This happened to me last week. I discovered Hugh Jackman was coming to Melbourne, and my God, it's happening this Sunday. And wow, tickets are so reasonable. I can actually take my kids and go to this. And so bang, 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 away you go, and you go to, say, a concert like Hugh Jackman or whatever, and you're inspired and you're uplifted, and suddenly there's a whole new world of understanding and connection that opens up to you because you've had this experience. I did this with my children. Children is ruled by the fifth house. So something like this, if you have the North Node in the fifth house, this is the kind of stuff that can manifest for you on this day. You might see that Facebook post about how cheap the tickets are, and away you go. You inspire yourself. It's a house of inspiration too. You inspire yourself, you inspire your children, you go and connect with celebrity. It's a house of celebrity and popularity. Boom. It's an experience, and you never know, like for me, I don't know how that might affect my children, having been to that very impressive concert, how that might affect my children into the future with their destiny. So many ways that the little things we do in life will play out for us, or can play out for us in the long term, and affect our journey through life. And the North Node is our destiny point. So for you guys, self-expression might manifest in some way. Something to do with your children and their destinies too can be part of this. Some sort of self-expression or pleasurable experience, like going to a Hugh Jackman concert. Romance can feature as part of this. There might be someone cross your path who makes life just that little more sparkly for you on this day, or your lover does something really beautiful for you, brings home some flowers, and it just changes your mood, which overall changes something about your destiny into the long term. Fabulous. Thank you for the romance. Risk-taking can also be seen. Like you might have often thought about entering the house lotto, games or whatever. And something on this day says, you know what? Yeah, let's do it. And you take a risk and you enter into the lotteries, and who knows what might happen into the future and how that might actually affect your destiny. Little things can add up to a lot when we have the North Node conjunct the moon. The moon's a very manifesting planet. So let's move on. The sixth house. For you guys who have the North Node in whole sign astrology in the sixth house, what realm of life might be receiving a small injection of manifestation for your destiny? Well, anything to do with health, anything to do with your well-being, anything to do with your daily work and your routines, anything that has to do with, when I say health, but also illness and service, because this is a house of service. So for you, your part of your destiny might be that you want to serve the world. You want to do something that really helps people and that makes the world a better place because you've been here. Kind of the Florence Nightingale thing or the Mother Teresa thing. Even the Princess Di kind of effect, where because you've been here, somebody's life has been changed, somebody has been uplifted and empowered in some way. So it's very much connected to service. So you might get an idea for how you can serve. You might have an opportunity. Somebody might ring you and say, hey, look, we're really needing a volunteer at XYZ charity event or something, and we're raising, let's say there's an art exhibition on and they're raising money for underprivileged kids or something, and they want you to volunteer and be part of that. And so you go and volunteer and be part of this art exhibition to raise money for underprivileged kids. And because you do that, somehow it changes your whole life trajectory and takes you further, step by step, baby steps, into your destiny. So something's going to happen for you on this day that is all about taking you further into your destiny and what you can actually achieve in life and what you are here to do, what your soul is incarnated to experience. So it might be service, like I said, like in the scenario I just described. It could be to do with your health and well-being. Maybe your health hasn't been that good. Maybe you've been very sick all winter long. And so, you take some sort of action. You know what? I'm going to start taking some some high-level vitamin pills or something like that. And because you make a decision to do that, the trajectory of your health just alters. You start changing your diet for your well-being, not for, you like to eat better food than crappy McDonald's or whatever, but because you want to take care of your health. That will motivate you at this time to make a choice about food that is more healthy for you. Also, your daily work and daily routines. So you might get a chance to work on a project. Just say, well, for example, if you were a policeman, you're going to be working in a sixth house type field. Very much police work is connected with sixth house type fields, where you're fixing problems, you're trying to make things right, you're trying to balance things out and make things a bit better. So you might get an opportunity to work on some sort of new project if you're a policeman, some sort of new operation or whatever that the police force is undertaking that's going to actually take you further and further into your destiny. But even if you're not in some sort of sixth house employment, because just because the North Node's in the sixth house doesn't mean that's the field of employment you're going to be in. Even if you're not in that sixth house field of employment, there could be something that pops up for you that enables you to help people fix their problems. So let's say you work at the bank and you're in money and finance. Well, you might be put onto a particular project that's all about helping people learn to budget better and manage their money better. And you're like, right, okay, this is an opportunity for me to employ my sixth house North Node destiny, where I'm helping people manage their resources, manage their money, do better and not, alleviate poverty and what have you, even though that might be a field you've never worked in before. So there can be some sort of little manifestation that occurs for you guys that takes you further into your sixth house destiny point on this day. It might be, having to do with your routine, and it could simply it's not talking big stuff here. The moon connects with the North Node once a month. So the North Node gets triggered in this way once a month by the moon's crossing, and we get some little incremental step forward into our overall destiny for you guys in the sixth house. So it might just be that there's an alteration to your routine. You decide, you know what? I think I need to start getting up early and meditate. So, I'll set my alarm for 6:30 instead of 7 o'clock, and I'll get up and I'll spend 20 minutes meditating so that I'm in a really good state of mind. So you work on your well-being. It's just this incremental little change. Even if you made a little incremental change once a month, whenever the North Node and the Moon meet, you make some sort of incremental change, and gradually you step towards more health, more well-being, more invigoration for life. So these are the kind of realms that this North Node Moon conjunction effect might be playing out in for you. If you happen to have the North Node natally for you in the 7th house in whole sign astrology. Well, what realm of life might be receiving some sort of small manifestation injection towards your destiny? This is going to happen with regards to other people. Now, we often think of the 7th house as all about marriage. Yes, it is, but it's also just about other people in general. It's the house opposite the house of you. So therefore, it's other people. You are house 1, other people are house 7. Simple as that. So other people, other relationships, this can be client relationships, business partnerships, usually some sort of contractual agreement is seen by the 7th house. Our open enemies are seen by the 7th house. Any type of justice and fairness and harmony and balance is seen by the 7th house. Marriage and our spouse, as well as the arts, cultural refinement is seen by the 7th house because it has a correlation to Libra. So because of this, these are the realms that you might find some little incremental piece of manifestation occurs that takes you further and further and further into your destiny. Now, like I said in the intro, the North Node and the Moon make a conjunction once a month. And what that will do, because the Moon is such a manifesting planet, it will trigger something into consciousness or something into manifestation that takes you one little step further towards your overall North Node destiny. For you guys, it's in the 7th house. So it might mean that you decide, oh, hey, I need to get some advertising done. So I'll ring that guy. I'll get in touch with that guy that I met at that networking party and see if he's free to organize me an advertising campaign. So you do some little incremental step that actually affects quite significantly your overall destiny. Some sort of business partnership or collaboration, such as hiring a marketing manager or getting someone to do a marketing campaign for you. It could be that, it happens in the realm of, well, justice, maybe in some minor way in your life, some injustice has been done to you and you just make a step towards getting that situation more well balanced. I'll give you an illustration. I've had a 2-year saga with a builder who really did the dodgy on me, and I've been, seeking out justice for that. So over the last 2 years, it might have meant just a little email to the local court system to say, okay, what's the next steps? What do I do here? How do I handle this? And so it could be something as tiny and incremental as that. But what it is doing for you is, maybe sending an email or getting an email response is taking you one step further towards your destiny, which in the 7th house is all about harmony, justice, and balance. The scales is the symbology of Libra, and Libra rules the 7th house, so there's an association there. So it could be that you take one little step forward in obtaining some sort of justice for yourself. You might be looking for a lawyer for some situation, and on this day when the North Node and the Moon connect, it's like, aha, you find the lawyer that you've been looking for. Great, right? Let's get on with this, bit of litigation that we have to deal with. So that's one example, not a nice example, but not everything is happy, happy, joy, joy in astrology or life for that matter. So that can be the realm that this falls in. And of course, if part of your destiny in the North Node is to have committed love relationships, well, you may just, do something that towards that end. You might be married and you might do some little endeavor that causes you to love your partner more, or they might do something for you. Like, you get up in the morning and your partner has left a beautiful note on the table because they had to go to work early, and they left a little note telling you how much they love you. And oh my God, so lucky to be in this relationship with this man or woman. And so you one little incremental step forward into the North Node destiny, which is being able to master the energy of being in partnership. That's what North Node is. It's learning to master a new energy. So part of learning to master the art of collaboration, care and nurturing for other people, this is all the kind of thing that you're heading into with the North Node in the 7th house. So you might find that some sort of manifestation towards that end occurs in your life from a loving partner or from you to your partner who you love. So these are the realms that this can play out in. There's lots of scenarios for how this might work, but there are a couple there. So if you happen to have the North Node natally in the 8th house, This is where your destiny lies. So when we get this triggering on this day, the realm of life that might be receiving this small injection of manifestation for you guys towards your destiny is going to happen and affect you from the 8th house. So what is that? Well, it's hidden things. It's community resources. It's death and rebirth type issues. Not literal death, or sometimes it is, but very rarely. Death and rebirth, where we die to the self and are reborn into a new way of being. A metaphoric death and rebirth. It's also the house of sex. It's the house of intimacy with a partner, not just sexual intimacy, but all types of intimacy with a loved one or partner. It's intensity, it's inheritances, it's the taboo, the underworld, the occult, crisis and transformation. All these amazing things come from the 8th house. So in some small way, these things form part of the destiny you're rising up into. Maybe your destiny is to become a crisis manager and to be able to handle really extreme situations of difficulty with great aplomb, with great capacity. You know, maybe that's part of your destiny. And so maybe something happens. I don't know, maybe you notice that iTunes has taken out more money from your account than they were meant to. And you're like, right, I'm on this. And you go into crisis management mode. I'm going to contact iTunes and make sure that, you know, they refund the money and what have you. And you become that really great crisis manager. And what it does is adds another kind of notch to your belt for, here we go again. I can handle this crisis situation with regard to money or whatever realm it happens to fall in. You get a bit of practice at being that crisis manager, because that's maybe it's your North Node in the 8th house destiny to be able to handle those sorts of situations. So maybe something will happen and you're like, I'm on this. I've got it sorted. We're going to get it dealt with. So it'll take you further, a little bit, incremental by incremental bit, into your North Node 8th house destiny. And it doesn't have to be, you know, oh, I've got to be a crisis manager. Ugh, eye roll, who wants to do that? I mean, we all have crises in our life from time to time. If you can manage it, so much the better for you. But it could just be, you know, maybe you're taking a step closer to understanding your true sexuality. This is the house of sex after all. So maybe something occurs for you that gives you some sort of empowerment or enlightenment about your, you know, your sex life, and you discover, oh, you know what, I really find that appealing. I might try that next time, or that's really fun for me and I enjoy that. And you might never have really realized, oh, I really quite like that particular position or whatever it is. So there's a lot of, you know, revelations that can happen about what works for you in an intimate way, and not just sexually as well, but, you know, at an intimate communicative level. The passion, the desire, the intensity between partners. You might have something occur that leaves you feeling really passionate and really intense about your partner. They might do something really lovely for you, and suddenly you discover this feeling of enamorment within you, and, you know, passion and desire in you that you were like, wow, I didn't know that was there. And that's just another little potential scenario that could take you further into your North Node destiny, which is to really be somebody who knows how to master the sexual realm and the realm of desire and passion with the North Node here. It's community resources as well. So something might occur for you that, you know, for example, you might discover, oh, there's an option to get a grant for or financial support from the government for high school children, you know, to purchase their uniforms. And you're like, I didn't even know this existed, but it might come into your awareness on this day. And, you know, you're like, right, well, I can apply to get that government support grant to purchase my children's school uniforms for next year. And so bang, community resources, government grants, government funding, these sorts of things are 8th house things. And you might, you know, have a scenario where that goes onto your radar, some sort of support that's available to you from the government. You might, you know, it's just little incremental steps that take you more towards your destiny, a mastery and understanding of the support mechanisms that are out there for you in the community, because this is the house of community resources. So watch out for those sorts of things manifesting if you have the North Node in the 8th house. If you're someone who natally has the North Node in whole sign astrology sitting in the 9th house, then for you, what realm of life might be receiving this small injection of manifestation for your destiny this week? Well, it's going to play out for you in the fields of 9th house things, such as travel for the purposes of cultural expansion or growth of belief systems, understanding of philosophies, higher learning, teaching, adventures, having adventures, connecting with inspirational figures, becoming an inspirational figure yourself, connecting with other cultures, religions, and beliefs. These are ninth house things. So you can actually really find something manifests in one of these realms for you. That's just a small incremental step for you in heading more towards your overall destiny for life. What might this look like? Well, you might actually, decide, oh, I'm going to take a trip. I'm going to go on a holiday. Gosh, I haven't had a holiday for years, but you know what? I think it's time. And so you start maybe creating a savings plan for how you can save up money to take that trip that you really decided you really want. That small incremental step. Okay, I'll put $20 into an account, and every week I'm going to put $20 in an account until I've got enough, and then I'm going to Paris or wherever it happens to be. So that's one thing that can happen. An incremental step towards your overall destiny to travel. North Node in the 9th house. Maybe you might, be in a bookshop and some sort of book leaps off the shelf, and it's all about, I don't know, the Anunnaki or something like that. And you're like, well, what the hell's that all about? So this is really intriguing. And you grab the book and you go buy it and you take it home, and suddenly you're finding out all about, the Sumerian tablets that talked about the Anunnaki, and you're like, wow, this is a whole belief system and a whole field of knowledge that I never even knew existed. I'm going to explore this more and more and more. And it might have just been instigated by this one little incremental pop into a bookshop in my lunchtime, and there's this book. Whew, and away I go further and further into my destiny to understand other schools of thought and other ideas and so on and so on. So these little things can happen when we have a triggering to our North Node that just take us little step by little step into our overall destiny that awaits us. So there are a couple of examples. Maybe you connect with an inspirational figure online. Maybe, you discover, wow, Russell Brand is doing some fabulous videos these days. My God, I had no idea. Oh, let me explore this. And the more you explore, the more you're inspired. The more you're like, wow, what a clever guy. And whatever, or it could be anybody. I'm just using him as an example. But this is the kind of thing. You discover some sort of inspirational figure on this day that takes you down the track of connecting more with people who inspire and uplift. So lots of ways this can manifest for you guys when you have the North Node in the 9th house. Now, if you are someone who has the North Node in the 10th house in whole sign astrology natally, not by transit right now, but natally, your natal position, then what realm of life might be receiving this small injection of manifestation for your destiny? Well, for you guys, it's 10th house things, which is career, your worldly achievements, the desired legacy that you want to leave, the public image that you want to create so that what the world sees, the ambition that you have for your life, and your connection with authority figures. These are the realms that you might be receiving some small sort of incremental triggering that's going to ultimately in the long term take you further towards your overall destiny. Well, what might this look like? Well, in the 10th house, quite simply, it's really easy to come up with 10th house analogies. Essentially, you might make a really good connection with some sort of authority figure on this day. Maybe you go out for lunch with a couple of colleagues, and it just so happens that the boss of the company goes to the same restaurant, and they introduce you to the boss of the company. You never met him before, and he's like, oh yeah, what department do you work in? And you're like, oh, I work in this field. And all right, oh look, stop by my office this afternoon. I want to have more of a chat. And you're like, wow. So it can be just something, quite, well, I was going to say insignificant. That might not be that insignificant, but something occurs on this day that's about taking you further into your destiny. North Node in the 10th house is about your career and your worldly achievement and your connection to authority figures. So for example, another example might be, let's say, you're aspiring to have recognition as a YouTuber. And so, on this day, you put up a video that you've been working on for months and months and months, trying to get it perfect, trying to get it right. Up it goes, and boom, it is seen by, a couple of hundred more people than you initially envisioned it being seen by. I mean, everybody aspires to have something go viral, but maybe it's just done quite successfully, and you're like, okay, that's another step forward in where I want to go and what I want to achieve and the legacy that I hope to leave the world. I've put this video up there. It's been really well received, really popular. Boom. 10th house, worldly achievements, being seen by the world, having some sort of notoriety, and becoming an authority in my particular field. It could also be that your public image receives some sort of, boost towards your overall destiny. And that could just simply be that somebody, shares a post of yours on Facebook, or somebody speaks very highly of you to a friend. They say, oh yeah, look, she did my advertising campaign and she was so clever, and my God, I just, her brilliance, I was really, really impressed. And so, by word of mouth, your public notoriety is increased, and it's something incremental and small, but something will happen that takes you further towards your overall destiny, which for you guys, North Node in the 10th house is all about these realms that I've just spoken of. So if your North Node natally happens to fall in the 11th house in whole sign astrology, this is where your destiny lies. So what does this look like for you in terms of the area that might be receiving some small incremental injection of manifestation towards your overall life destiny? In the 11th house, it's going to have to do with friendships. It's going to have to do with social groups, all your allies, the people who've got your back, your community and clubs, any type of involvement in these sorts of things, teamwork, your hopes, your wishes, any types of rewards and gains that you aspire to achieve. Now, this was where you're going to get little incremental baby steps towards the overall destiny that your soul has incarnated to experience. What might this look like? Well, you might get an invite from a friend to say, hey, you know what, I'm going to this philosophy group on Thursday night. Hey, do you want to come with me? Because I'd love some company, and I know you're into sort of that sort of thing. So come join this group with me. And you're like, okay. So you go with a friend, this is the house of friendship, to a club or a group, and it's surprisingly wonderful, and you find that it is actually quite influential for your overall life trajectory by connecting with this group of like-minded people. Somehow there is blessing there that's helping to support you in your long-term destiny. It might mean that you're invited to go and work in some sort of community group, doing some sort of, project or piece of work that's going to help society, help your community better. Like it might be, for example, door knocking for the Red Cross, going and trying to doing some fundraising for a really worthy cause. And in doing this, maybe you're inspired to start some sort of not-for-profit organization yourself. You get this inspirational thing for, well, this could actually, if I did this, if I did that, I could create XYZ, and you just discover through some sort of very small incremental activity that you undertake or that you're inspired to be part of, you get an idea for a vision or a goal or a dream that you can now work with yourself, starting an NFO. One example. So any type of humanitarian work, joining in some sort of club or a team, some sort of collaborative thing, connecting with friends or social groups, these networking things, these humanitarian, service-oriented kind of occupations or not even occupations, sort of opportunities, can actually manifest in taking you one step further towards your overall destiny. You mightn't even know what this overall destiny is yet. You might be taking these baby steps that haven't manifested in anything concrete yet. But little by little, the universe is taking you down the road to manifestation of an 11th house destiny for you guys. You might end up running a not-for-profit in the long term. By your 50s, you're head of an NFO, and it's all come from this one little experience that you had when you were outdoor knocking and you realized, oh, I could do this. So these are the kind of things that could definitely manifest for you on this date. Something will happen that's going to take you a little baby step further into manifesting whatever your dream is, whatever your goal is, and receiving some sort of rewards and gains and accolades for the work that you've been doing already even. So finally, if you have the North Node natally falling in your 12th house, well, this is the realm of life that's going to be receiving some sort of small injection of manifestation towards your overall destiny right now. Natal, not transiting North Node, natal North Node in the 12th house. So for you guys, this is going to play out in the arena of overseas travel to other countries, retreats, escapes, holidays, getting away from it all, relaxing, unwinding. Also areas to do with charity and compassion. Sacred service that we offer the world is also seen by the 12th house. Inspiration, spirituality, healing, divinely inspired creativity that comes through the 12th house. So these are the realms that you might find something bubbles up for you, something manifests for you, and it's going to take you incrementally towards your overall North Node in the 12th house destiny. So you might actually find that you decide to join maybe a yoga group on this day. And in doing so, you connect all of a sudden with like-minded, spiritually minded souls, and they take you to a higher level. You start connecting with clearer souls. And wow, I'm really being, uplifted by these people. So could just be something as simple as that, joining a new yoga class. Or it might be something to do with some sort of, you go and have a day spa treatment, you get a facial done or something like that. And in doing so, you're having the facial done, you're lying there with your eyes closed and relaxed. Maybe some sort of divinely inspired thought comes to you and you get some sort of insight into your soul and your journey, or what you want to, where you want to go with life, and you'll develop some sort of new spiritual belief while you're lying there having a facial done. By relaxing, by holidaying, by getting away from the ordinary, mundane, everyday things, when you have North Node in the 12th house, this is very supportive of you rising into your destiny. That's where you get inspirations. That's where the divine speaks to you. When you're having a break, when you're resting, when you're in your imaginary world, so to speak. So by taking those opportunities to take time out and daydream, or go to the movies or something like that, where you're just escaping ordinary reality, that's when you can have real epiphanies at this time. And it's these little epiphanies that you get throughout your life when you have North Node in the 12th house that are taking you more towards a spiritual belief system, an understanding of the divine, feeling connected with the universe in a way that maybe you've never felt before in any incarnation, but it's part of your destiny in this one to experience that. The North Node's where we're heading, what we're here to master, what we're here to understand and learn. And so this is for you guys where you're headed. And it could manifest in some little completely unintentional incident on this day when the moon is triggering the themes of the North Node in your life. So this is how it can manifest for people with North Node in the 12th house. You might, another scenario might be that you get involved in some sort of charity work. Somebody says, hey, I'm going to be collecting old unwanted books from the library on the weekend, and we're going to take them around to sort of, what are they called? Neighborhood house kind of areas, or underprivileged areas that need more resources. Okay, I know books are an old dinosaur thing anyway, they're dying up, but people still love them. I do. So you go and do some sort of charity work in a community that take some old library books around to help some sort of underprivileged area, or some people to have access to that sort of information. Libraries are very much a 12th house thing, and so is charity work. So by getting involved in that sort of thing, you can actually be channeling this energy. You might not realize it. It might not feel like anything significant at the time, but it might be taking you into a more of a connection with charity work, and it inspires you down the track. I remember that time I did that work for the library, and we did that charity drive for unwanted old books and so on and so on. That was great. I want to do more of that, and you might be inspired towards a further destiny in some sort of charity work. So that is what we see with the North Node generally being triggered when it's in the 12th house. So thank you so much for joining me this week for the Astro Weather Report. I hope that there's been something supportive here for you and you've received some sort of guidance or inspiration yourself. But let's finish by thanking the universe for the support and love that we receive each week. Universal energy of love, thank you for all we have learnt through our experiences this week, and thank you for all the little incremental things that occur in our lives that help take us to our destiny, that help us master the energy of the North Node, that help us learn more about this field of life, the North Node, which is something we really haven't got a grip on, and we're learning to understand better. So thank you that you're leading us daily by the hand into mastering this energy, understanding it more, and growing in our soul's journey through this life. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for your love. May we show it to other people as we have been shown love in our lives. And so it is. Thanks for joining me. I'll catch you with another weather report next week.